The forces of evil do not stop when they get a particular nation to go their way. They want the whole world. Next on Defending Life, you'll learn one of the ways they try to do that and some of the good news about how they have been failing. Hello, I'm Janet Morana, Executive Director of Priests for Life and co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign. Welcome to our Defending Life program. I'm joined today by our Associate Director, Father Denis Wilde. Welcome to our program, Father.
Thanks, Janet. Great to be back.
Well, nice to having you back. And of course, we'd always like to start our program with a prayer, and it comes from the Pro-Life Reflections for Every Day, written by Father Frank Pavone, our National Director. And today's reflection comes from Revelation, and it's the following. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will no longer be death.
Men continue to suffer from the abortion of their children. Many of them repent of having shed the blood of the person God entrusted to their care, love, and protection. Others tried to protect their child and were not allowed by the child's mother or by the law to intervene to stop the abortion. Men in these circumstances need to know that they do not weep alone and that their healing is available. Redeem, O Lord, the fathers whose hearts are torn by the abortion of their children. Amen.
Amen. And of course, they can get that prayer book from us at Priests for Life. Give us a call or go to our online store. But, particularly with abortion with men, with the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, every week now, more and more men are coming and regretting their lost fatherhood. So that kind of a reflection is very important. Well, for today's topic, of course, we're talking about abortion and the United Nations and what's happening at the UN and around the world. And we're very fortunate to have come to our Priests for Life headquarters, Wendy Wright, and she works for a group called CFAM, which stands for the Catholic Family and Human Rights Institute. And she's been doing this work at the UN for a good number of years. So let's see what Wendy had to say and some of her insights.
The abortion movement has had a problem in that many people around the world don't believe in abortion. They don't want it to be legal in their countries. And so the abortion movement has tried to do all that they can to try and pass laws in the United States, within states, federally, and in other countries to try and make abortion legal and accepted. But they figured probably the easiest way for them to do that is, instead of bottom up, go top down. And they went to the UN. And in 1994, the abortion movement and some very strong political players, including the Bill Clinton administration, tried to force abortion on all countries, tried to get all countries to accept code language that later then would be interpreted as abortion on demand. Phrases like reproductive rights or reproductive health services. They thought if they could slip it into these UN documents, countries would agree to it because it sounds like, hey, we're providing maternal health care to women who are pregnant. And then later they would come back, file lawsuits within countries and say, look, your country agreed to this language and this language means abortion. Well, they were unsuccessful in 1994 at Cairo UN conference. They were unsuccessful in 1995 at the Beijing Women's Conference. And so then they tried a different route, working within these committees that meet in the basement of the UN. Hardly anyone pays attention to them. They oversee human rights treaties at the UN. And the goal, the technique was to pressure countries individually as these countries came up for review on how they were implementing these treaties. And then providing this pressure on the countries to try and get them to change their laws. And this has been going on for a number of years. They've not been very successful. They've only been a couple of times have gotten some of the members of these committees to pressure the countries and come up with some terrible opinions, like telling Mexico that it must make access to RU46, the abortion pill, easy and quick. telling Croatia that it had to do away with its conscience rights protections for doctors and nurses. And now they're trying a new technique. That is working through the bureaucracies at the UN, like the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization is highly respected. Sadly, in particular divisions or departments, it's been taken over by abortion advocates. And so just recently, the World Health Organization came out with an abortion manual, a manual on how to do abortions. It's a way of trying to mainstream abortion within medical practices throughout the world, trying to present it as this is just a part of regular medical care. And then it also promoted abortion pills. It gave a how-to on how to prescribe different kinds of abortion pills. And so we see how the bureaucracy at the UN is being used to try and pressure countries, not only through the legal route by trying to claim that or trying to create an international right to abortion, but also through the medical systems of the world and even through the human rights systems. So if you see a headline like United Nations Population Fund declares that contraception is a human right, or the World Health Organization endorses abortion, don't believe it on its face. Recognize that these arenas, some of them, have been taken over by abortion advocates. It doesn't mean that abortion is safe or acceptable. It just means that there are bad people in some key positions, and we need to try and do what we can to replace those people and to try and get good information out instead of the bad information that some of these agencies are currently giving out. In 2012, the United Nations Population Fund released their annual report, and all the major media reported on it in one crisp soundbite. They claimed that the United Nations has declared contraception is a human right. Well, we read through the annual report. It did not say that. Now, it's been agreed within the UN system that family planning is a human right. Well, family planning is very broad, and it may or may not include contraception. And so the annual report made reference to that. It did make some reference to contraception, but the UNFPA, one agency which doesn't represent all the countries of the world, does not have the authority to declare something a human right. On top of that, they didn't declare contraception a human right. However, most people are not going to read that annual report. They're just going to read the headline, and they're going to think that UN has declared contraception a human right when in fact it never did.
Well, of course, as always, there's a lot happens at the UN, and we have a lot more to say about that when we come back right after this message. Stay tuned.
Powerful new voices are arising in the debate over abortion. The voices of those who have actually experienced it. From coast to coast, women and men who have lost children to abortion are speaking out about its pain and devastation, and about the healing and forgiveness they have found through the pro-life movement. Their witness is changing hearts and minds. Former U.S. Senator Zell Miller writes, "The most poignant sight for me at this year's annual pro-life march and demonstration in Washington, D.C. was the large number of women holding signs saying they regretted their abortions." And the United States Supreme Court wrote, "It seems unexceptionable to conclude some women come to regret their choice to abort the infant life they once created and sustained. Severe depression and loss of esteem can follow, a decision so fraught with emotional consequence."
Welcome back to our Defending Life program, where we just heard from Wendy Wright about what happens at the UN concerning the abortion issue in nations around the world. Well, you know, Father, as we saw from Wendy's comments, I mean, there's basically, you know, they really try to manipulate other countries and really push an abortion agenda on them, even for countries who are trying to stay, you know, keep abortion illegal. There's an agenda, isn't there?
There's a deception. They change the words around also to fit the abortion agenda, but it deceives the people. And if they can't get a country that, by and large, is pro-life,
Right.
they do it through other means, surreptitiously, or maybe not surreptitiously, but through NGOs, which are very valid. But in some cases, they have an agenda, and they push it little by little to nibble away at the structures of the, of human protection.
Right.
And so that's a very important area that needs to be looked at. And we have Marie Smith, who works for the Parliamentary Network
For critical issues. Right.
And she has brought a lot of information. But not only that, but we'll talk about Marie too, but Priests for Life as an NGO, we've
Right.
been represented at the
And I know,
United
Father,
Nations.
you have been with Bob Lalonde,
Yeah.
who is our director of our international outreach, and both you and,
Right.
and Bob do a lot of work along with Marie Smith at the UN for Priests for Life, where we are an official NGO and we keep maintaining that status. But like you mentioned, Marie Smith is also part of our Priests for Life team, our family, under our Gospel of Life ministries, and she has her organization is called the Parliamentary Network of Critical Issues. She works directly with trying to assist parliamentarians all over the world, because like we learned here from Wendy, there is definitely an abortion agenda that has crept into the UN, and then we have to keep trying to turn things around.
And she's been over to Europe a number of times and met with these councils of people who are pro-life, and they want to be advised and kept in the loop on this. Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, if you notice how deceptive they are, that they even got a statement out that contraception is a human right, and that was not in the document whatsoever. I mean, I found that, that's eye-opening, that, what do people hear? They hear that soundbite that makes it out. And like Wendy points out, maybe the document is like this thick. Who's going to sit and read that whole document? Very few people. But yet they push out one little soundbite, and that's boom. Right. And then everyone says, oh, the UN says contraception is a human right. It sounds like, oh, so they're endorsing contraception. No, that's not what happened. The deception goes on and on. But what I think our viewers have to realize, that the United States plays a very key role in what happens at the UN. We're one of the superpowers, as they would say.
And it all depends upon who's in office.
Who's in the White House.
At the
right.
White House, because from the top down, they're trying to go from the bottom up with the NGOs, but in many cases the influence is from the top down to the United Nations, from us.
Exactly.
And then influencing the lives of so many other people. And how many times do we hear that the United States has sent over to other countries things that make them control or pressure them to control what they're doing in their families, and if they're going to get some other goods from us, they have to do that.
That's right.
Which is a very unfair thing, and of course distasteful, as well as it takes the lives of people in the long run.
Yeah. Well, you know what people may not realize is, like Wendy mentioned, those two conferences, one was Cairo, one was Beijing in 94 and 95. Now, first of all, those were during the Clinton administration. Right. So the United States delegation that went over, official delegation to those UN conferences, was all pro-abortion. Hillary Clinton proudly was marching over there, leading the group. But what they don't realize is there were pro-life groups also over there. The Vatican always has representation, and we had our own Jerry Horn, who works with Priests for Life, over there also being represented. And so it's a real, we should be praying for our folks at the UN, because it's a real struggle of good and evil that goes on all the time. And like during the Clinton years of those conferences, it was a definite agenda. Well, then when we had the Bush years, if you notice, then there was more of a pro-life representation at the UN. We weren't shoving abortion all over the world, especially countries that we give aid to. There's such a pressure of who's ever in the White House. Well, there's strings attached very often to the aid that goes out. And
the terms that are used there too, they try to, for example, the terms of forced pregnancy, that was pushed for a long period of time.
Right.
It didn't succeed, but look at what that would mean. Forced anything sounds like an abuse, doesn't it? When you're forcing something on another person. But here it really means to disallow the killing of the child in the womb, which should be a right, really, that child has. Well, and I know with Marie Smith at PNCI, which we had mentioned her already, one of the things she's really sounding the alarm about is the use of misoprostol, which in other countries, as we know, that's part of the RU-486 cocktail, but they're getting it into countries, just the one drug, being used for other purposes, and then suddenly they're using it now to create an abortion. And people are just totally unaware of this. And I know Marie puts out, people might be wondering, well, how are we going to know more about Marie's work? They can just go to her website, go to actually Priests for Life. There's a link right there
to PNCI, Parliament Network Critical Issues, and she puts out news alerts and bulletins of what's happening at the UN. First of all, we should all be praying, for the situation, for our good pro-life people that are out there and doing what they have to do. But then stay informed so you can talk to people, because, like we said in other programs, elections have consequences, and who we put in office in the White House dictates who then is representing our country, which is considered a superpower at the UN, and how much we're exporting abortion all over the world.
Exactly. Yeah, because the United Nations a lot of times even it will take away the sovereignty of a country if we're not careful. And sometimes that is there. It's ironic, however, that when it comes to abortion, that's something we're not, if it's a pro-abortion administration, they're going to make sure that they keep that sovereign.
That's right.
Ironically.
Right. Well, Father, I want to thank you right now for all these comments about the UN. I bet a lot of people didn't know what really happens at the UN and the lies that the pro-abortion lobby perpetrate there. But right after this message, we're going to come back and we're going to take some questions from you, our viewers, and also give you some more action items you can do to bring an end to abortion. So stay tuned. I am privileged each day to see the impact that the Silent No More awareness campaign is having around the world as more women and men speak up about their abortion experience and the healing God brought them. Now you can have a special DVD, a sampling of those testimonies, and that you can share in a powerful 6-minute presentation. This is ideal for pro-life presentations, for use in churches, for personal interaction, and even to play while doing sidewalk counseling. Together with the testimonies is an inspiring song video, Silent No More, which will give you a sense of the joy and freedom that these women and men experience in their healing. It is a beautiful tool to invite others to find the same healing and also to inspire pastors to talk about it. Contact us at our toll-free number, 888-735-3448, or visit our online store, prolifeproducts.org, to order the Silent No More Awareness Campaign DVD. Thank you. Welcome back to our Defending Life program, where now we're going to take a question from you, our viewers. Well, Father Denis, today's question comes from Stephen from Ocean City, Maryland, and he writes, I keep hearing that abortion is legal throughout pregnancy. But then I also hear that in certain states it is illegal after a certain point. Please clear up my confusion.
Stephen, thank you for your question. Yes, it's true that abortion is legal throughout pregnancy in the United States, all 9 months. A healthy baby carried by a healthy mother can be killed legally right up until the day of birth. This is the case because of the Supreme Court's Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton decisions on the same day, issued in 1973. The reason that you also hear that it is illegal after a certain point is that in certain states there are indeed laws that prohibit abortion after a certain stage late in pregnancy. However, the problem is that the court's rulings invalidate many of these provisions or make it practically impossible to enforce them. Let's look at this a bit more closely. Here are the relevant words from the Roe v. Wade decision. For the stage subsequent to viability, the state may, if it chooses, regulate and even proscribe abortion, except where necessary in appropriate medical judgment for the preservation of the life or health of the mother. Notice, therefore, that by itself, the Roe v. Wade decision allows abortion right up to birth because it says that in making it illegal in the final months of pregnancy is something the state may do if it chooses. They obviously don't have to. Then it goes further by saying the state must permit abortion, no matter how late in pregnancy, for the woman's health. The companion case, Doe versus Bolton, issued on the same day in conjunction with Roe, goes on to define health in the broadest possible way. Listen to this. The medical judgment may be exercised in the light of all factors: physical, emotional, psychological, familial, and the woman's age, relevant to the well-being of the patient, meaning the woman. All these factors may relate to health. Well, all this leads to a simple conclusion, as expressed in 1990 in the University of Detroit Law Review. The Supreme Court's decisions allowed abortion on demand throughout the entire 9 months of pregnancy. There is indeed a new effort in our day to pass state laws prohibiting abortion in latter stages of pregnancy. Some are afraid to try this precisely because they say, well, the courts will knock it down. Others say that such laws should be passed precisely because it can get the court to change its policy. Thanks for your question. At any time, you can go to prolifequestions.com. Send us more questions.
Well, thank you, Father. And of course, our viewers need to know that they can contact our public outreach department every day, both phone, email, or snail mail, and we're happy to answer any of their questions, even if they don't make them on the air. And of course, I'd like to remind our viewers that our Priest for Life newsletter is available to them also by snail mail or email, and it's absolutely free of charge, comes out 6 times a year, and they'll get news of what our ministries are doing and what's happening in the pro-life movement. Well, now an action item, and as we know, Father, how we talk about pregnancy and mothers, etc., really can make you can be more life-affirming or go more towards the pro-choice mentality. And some simple things like when a woman is pregnant, and they find out, they should name the child. Yep. As soon as they know they're having a baby, the couple should decide on names.
First of all, we use the word woman a lot. We use the word man a lot in talking about this. I don't say we do, but I mean the whole culture does. And it's designed in a way to almost neutralize a relationship. Right. And that relationship is between a mother and child, between a father and child. She's a mother by definition if she's carrying
from
a child.
From the moment of conception.
And he is a father if he's the one who's impregnated and given the life.
Right.
And so not only that, but also the relationship between each other in case of marriage. However, that culture out there wants to destroy that or to keep it apart almost as a gender war. So we on our side need to promote the idea of that relationship. And that's what God wants us to have, is that relationship.
And it's precisely because of that. We don't have to wait till the child is born to send Mother's Day or Father's Day cards.
Yeah, we could do that.
As soon as during the pregnancy, if Mother's Day rolls around or Father's Day, that's when they should get the cards. Because like you just said, they already are a mother. They are a father.
I mean, this term about you're expecting. Well, what are you expecting?
Right.
You're already pregnant and with a child.
Exactly. And like when people say, how many children do you have? And people say, 2 and 1 on the way. On the way from where?
From where?
No, we have Susie who's 4 and Johnny is 2. And I have another child that's, we're going to name him Patrick, and he's expected to be born and gives a date. It's not on the way. The child is already here. That child is already part of your family. And of course, for people who get into an unplanned pregnancy or it's not a crisis pregnancy, why can't we call it an unexpected blessing? Because if we believe every life is sacred from conception to natural death, then the circumstance of the conception might have been unexpected, but it's still a blessing. So I think if our viewers begin to use some of these hints we're giving them, we will build more of the culture of life and counter the culture of death. Well, thank you, Father, for another good program, and I'm sure people will take some of this advice and create more of a culture of life.
We'll pray.
Well, brothers and sisters, thank you for joining us on Defending Life, and remember, we also have a Spanish version of this program on EWTN's Spanish channel. And before you go, let me offer you 3 items. First, The Will to Live, a document to help you and your loved ones make medical decisions in difficult circumstances and to protect you and them from being pressured to do things contrary to moral law. This document enables you to appoint someone you know and trust to speak for you if you cannot speak for yourself, and is made according to the laws of each of the 50 states. Father Pavone strongly endorses this document, and we will send it to you absolutely free of charge, so contact us at Priest for Life. Second, we offer Mass cards both for the living and the deceased, and we will send you as many as you want free of charge to enroll your loved ones in the daily Masses and prayers that are said by Father Pavone, Father Wilde, and the whole Priest for Life family that are celebrated every day. Use these for birthdays, graduations, anniversaries, or other occasions, as well as at those sad moments of saying farewell to those who have died. Let us know today how many Mass cards you would like to receive. And finally, third, pray along with us throughout the year by ordering our new and revised pro-life prayer book called In the Palm of His Hand. You'll find prayers for all occasions and liturgical seasons. And remember, you can invite Father Pavone, Father Denis Wilde, myself, and other members of our Priest for Life team and Alveda King to your churches, communities, and pro-life events. Check out our website for details at priestforlife.org. And on behalf of Father Frank Pavone, our National Director, and all our Priest for Life family, I urge you to let us hear from you. Send us your success stories or questions and comments. And remember, we're not just here to fight abortion. We're here to end it. And we will. Join us again next week on Defending Life.